Hey guys, my name's Jared. I'm a tool maker, tool and mold maker, machinist, CNC machinist, all those things. I just wanted to make a quick video about is it worth getting into the trade, into the machine CNC machining trade, the tool and mold, tool and die trade, all of the above. I've seen this topic come up quite a bit, and I just thought maybe I might have something to add to it. I don't know if anybody's even going to see this, but I'm going to do it anyways and put it out there. I'm going to try and keep it short. Um, so, anyways, just a real quick, I'm going to go through my background a little bit. So, I started out just working in a factory right out of high school. I was supposed to be an auto tech. But I kind of chickened out on that. I think I just realized just really didn't want to do that. So I ended up getting a job at a factory, a local factory here, and they actually produced brake shoes for big semi tractor trailer trucks, stuff like that. So it was kind of heavy industry stuff. I started out running a punch press. Did that for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then I got a rare opportunity to go work in their tool room, which was very strange. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll work in there." And I remember the boss bringing me in the office, and he pointed out at a Bridgeport, which I didn't even know what one was, and said, "Can you run that thing?" And it had a drill chuck in it, and it looked like a drill press. And I'm like, "Yeah, I can run that thing." I had no idea what he was talking about, but anyways, I took the job. I did it. It was kind of like die repair. We didn't build dies, but we maintained the dies that they had and stuff like that. So it was an introduction to working in a tool shop in a tool room situation. And I found out real quickly how much I didn't know, and it was very apparent. Like, I mean, it was amazing that I was even able to like get through that and like stay there in that position. So I think I did that for maybe about 6 months to a year. And then I ended up getting out of there because the boss was like a giant jerk, and I just didn't get along with him at all. And I wasn't digging it, and I ended up transferring out of that department, and I got into the CNC machining department, which was basically you were a CNC operator running CNC lathes. So did that for a while, maybe 6 months or so. And then I started to realize, like, if if I'm going to stick with this, I need to like get better at it. I need to go somewhere where I'm going to get more money and learn more. So I went to another CNC shop out in the city, out in Rochester, and which is near me. Started working at a machine shop there for a while, and I just really hated it. I didn't like running production, and that was what it was. It was just not. It was sort of short run production. I mean, I'd be running like 400 or something, and then it would change over to run. But it was all the same stuff all the time, and I was running the same machine, couple machines every day, and it just got really boring. And I realized really quickly that like I wasn't gonna the big job there was like becoming like a setup man. If you could get the setup man programmer position, like then you were doing pretty good. Then you were kind of at the top of the pile. But there was no way. I mean, there were guys that were already doing it, and you weren't gonna unseat them. There was just no way around it. But I did try. I did try to learn on my own as much as I could, but back in the 90s, there was no YouTube. There was no resources other than like machine manuals and stuff like that you could look at to try to figure out what was going on. But I did try. I really studied the codes to try to figure out what they were actually doing and things like that. And I learned how to set the jobs up on the machine. So they were letting me do some things like that. But then once it got to the point where I went in and asked for more money, they're like, we can't really pay you any more money. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we got to go because I'm not learning anything else. And I'm not going to work. I seen guys that were there for 20 some years, 30 years or whatever, and they just looked miserable to me. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So anyways, a friend of mine was working at a tool and mold shop up the street and said, hey, why don't you come up here? They're looking for a guy, you know, for the mold repair department or whatever. And I was like, you know, maybe I'll go check it out. So I went down, talked to the guy, and he said, yeah, you know, you got a little bit of experience. So, yeah, we'll bring you on and you can work in the mold repair department and stuff. And I actually really loved that job. It was a cool job. Like working in the tool room in general is better in my opinion because it's a lot more laid back. You're not like under the gun like production work and stuff. Just a totally different atmosphere. So I did that job for probably 6 months or so, and then the mold makers kind of got to know me a little bit, and they started kind of bugging me like, "Oh, you need to get on the apprenticeship. You should get on the apprenticeship." And I'm like, I didn't really want to do that because it was like a lot less money than I was making. I think it was like $6.50 an hour or something like that, and I was already making $10 an hour, and this is like back in like 96, 97. So but I've thought it over and I, you know, eventually said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I got on the apprenticeship, you know, for mold making, mold and die making. And I did some of the schooling, I did all that and started getting my hours and all that stuff like that. And I stayed at that place for probably a year and a half. And then I ended up leaving and going to work at a smaller place than where I was, which it was actually it turned out to be a benefit for me because anybody that's been around a little while, like at a smaller shop, you're kind of like sink or swim. Like either you got to like jump in and like try to do stuff, or you're gonna kind of get, you know, you'll be just standing on the sidelines. Like there's no like waiting around at a small shop. Like you kind of have to. Everyone that works there has kind of got to jump in and do stuff. I mean, in other words, it's a great opportunity to like learn some stuff in a hurry. Like, I mean, you're going to fall and make mistakes and screw up and everything like that, but like I think it was probably one of the better opportunities for me to learn some stuff. So I kind of bounced around at a few mold shops like that. And then around somewhere around the early 2000s, the whole China thing came into play, and all the mold shops in the area, especially the smaller ones, got hit really hard, and the work dried up, and I just kept getting laid off and laid off and laid off, and I was actually going to get out of the trade at that point. I actually even went to try to go back into college. I went back to school for a while and did that, and then I ended up getting called back to work off unemployment, so I had to go back. And then I ended up getting a job later on at a place, and I ended up staying there for 15 years. And that was more of just a general CNC machinist kind of position. But it was a very small outfit, and it was more of a developmental role. So I was just machining and making a lot of prototype quantity stuff and developing processes and stuff, which I found really interesting, and I learned a ton doing that. So like I said, I stayed there for about 15 years, and then it just kind of got stale after a while. Like after it seemed like I kind of reached the end of my usefulness there in a way, because all the things that they had wanted to do, we kind of figured out how to do them, and so now it was just kind of just going through the motions, and there was nothing new happening, and it just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm kind of getting bored with this, you know. I mean, I had it made pretty good there, but it just I was always thinking of other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get back into like a tool making. I like the doing tool making and stuff like that. But so I ended up bouncing around at a couple more jobs after that before I finally found the one I'm at now, where I'm actually a tool maker. So I guess my point is, like, you know, anyone that's thinking about getting into this trade, like, it's not an easy, there's no easy path to the top. Like, and I think there is, like, no one ever likes to talk about this, but like, I think there is some value in moving around and working at some different shops and getting some different perspectives on things, and throughout your career, if you do decide you want to make this a career and stay in it and try to, you know, work your way up and get experience. I mean, even though now you have YouTube and stuff like that, where like you can learn, you can like fast forward, fast track your learning, which I wish I would have had back in the 90s, because back then it was like someone had to show you, or else you had to read some old manual or something and try to figure it out on your own, which was a lot more difficult. So the younger generation definitely has a benefit there of having a lot of this knowledge is now being passed along on YouTube, Practical Machinist, other places like that. People are talking about it now and getting it out in the open, where it was like a hidden thing back in the old days. So like I was saying, it's definitely, there's no substitute for learning, and like I said, I think moving around a little bit and working at some different areas will help build your toolbox over time. So what's happening right now is that we all know that the older generation is all retiring out, and I'm 50, so I'm the next in line now. But my generation, Generation X, I there is a huge gap there between both the older generation, like what would be the boomer generation, and then us. And then there's even a larger gap between my generation and then the younger generations than me, Gen Z and stuff like that, millennials, whatever you want to call it. So there's just this the pipeline didn't continue to funnel people up through the system. So there's like a huge knowledge gap happening right now, where the companies that are looking for people right now, they want guys that have a lot of experience, and it's just not there. It's like, and you can't really fake experience. I mean, you can't, I mean, as much as you can, do a lot of things and figure out how to do things on YouTube and all this stuff, I don't think there's a substitute for like the experiences that you have over many years working in different machine shops and getting different perspectives on things. I mean, so there's a huge problem there. But now the next thing is the money. Okay, so if we just do a simple Google search, I mean, you can see that the average machinist wage is only about $50,000, which isn't squat anymore. It used to be a lot of money. Like if I made $50,000 back in the 90s, I would be over the moon. I'd be driving a real super nice car and all that stuff like that. But like now, $50,000 is like, you can barely live on it. And you could even make $60,000. I mean, the thing that gets me is like a lot of people talk about, making six figures. Everybody's making six figures, but it's like, that's just not the norm. I mean, yes, a few people can get up to those levels where like you're not working gobs of hours and making $100,000 a year, or you're going to be super stressed out and working at some giant aerospace place where like one little thing goes wrong and it's like the end of the world. There's some balance in there, like of how much stress you want to take on, how much you want to actually work, because the reality is, in order to make that kind of big money like that, you really do kind of have to work a lot of hours. I mean, weekends and, stuff like that, 60 hours a week. I mean, I read on the forums and stuff like that, these guys get into wars about who can work the most hours. It's like, yeah, but you're working your life away for what? Like to make $100,000. I mean, when you die, what's that gonna matter? I mean, there's gotta be a little bit of balance there too. So, but if you just really decide you really have to get into the trade and you really just love this, and I think that's important. Like, you got to really like this stuff, I think, because if you don't, I don't think you're going to stick it out, because it is very difficult, especially now, because I think most machine shops there are now are basically just jobbing shops where they're just running CNC machines. And when you come in off the street, like you're just going to be an operator for the most part, like, and it's going to be difficult for you to move up that ladder, really. I mean, you're going to have to really go out of your way to like try to, learn stuff. And then there's still, on top of that, there's no guarantee that you're going to go anywhere. I mean, you might get to the point where you're like setting the jobs up and stuff like that, and you can make a little more money. but only a very select few people are actually going to get all the way up to those higher levels, which the highest level in the machine shop for the most part is the programmer. And if they have, and nowadays they like one programmer programs the whole place, and and even he's only making, maybe 70, 80, maybe 100,000 a year, at a big place or something like that. But like, you got to unseat that guy. I mean, what are the chances of that? So no matter what you do, you're going to have to bounce around from place to place and stuff like that. So I don't think there's any getting around that. I mean, and so just those are some things that you got to be aware of. Like, you're going to have people that are going to get in your way and want to, they're going to see that you're trying to do something, and they're going to go in and, and try to screw you over one way or another. There's guys like that out there. I mean, not everybody's a nice guy out there and teach you stuff. There's a lot of guys that'll just tell you the wrong thing and try to screw you up and make you look bad so they look better. A lot of that going on. But I just think, it is true that you can make it to those upper levels and you can do these things, and also owning a business. I mean, it's not easy to own a CNC machine shop. It's extremely expensive. You gotta try to run around and get customers and all that. I mean, it's a lot easier nowadays than it ever was to start a machine shop. And I think a lot of people are going that route because it's, maybe it's easier. I don't know. I've kind of dabbled in that area. I'm not going to get into all that in this video, but so the point is, like, is it worth it? I guess that's a question that has to be answered by you. Like, as far as money goes, I would have a hard time recommending it to somebody, because I think you could do any number of things and make a lot more money a lot quicker with a lot less knowledge that would need to be had. But if you just really you've seen the industry and you just really like the making things with your hands kind of thing, and being involved in producing high level technical parts and things like that, then I would say, yeah, okay, but just be ready for a long roller coaster ride, because there's just no getting around it. You're not gonna just go watch a few videos on YouTube and then skyrocket all the way to the top. And that's the trouble. Like, that's where I kind of get a little, like, I see some of these videos out there. I'm not going to name names, but there's people out there's videos out there where it makes it kind of look like you could just like do this video series and like you can just walk in and get like $100,000 job and all this stuff like that. And it's like, that's not the reality. Like, it's good to promote the trade. I really like that, and it's good to have some education out there for the trades and get people talking, get people involved and stuff, because we really do need people in the trade. I mean, but the other side of the story too that I won't go too far into in this video also is the competition from overseas and what that's going to do to the industry over the next decade or so. That could be an issue too, and I think the lower you are on those rungs, the more that you're like, it's going to be those people that are going to be, if you can't evolve and like jump into some higher level thing within this whole ecosystem, I think you're kind of going to be left behind. Like, if you're just like a general operator and all you can do is run parts and do simple setups and changeovers and stuff, I think a lot of those people are going to fade away in the next decade or so, because the competition is so stiff and the margins, the lines for, profitability and stuff like that are so thin that, like, labor is like the number one enemy of any shop. And they're going to be looking for ways to like save as much money as they possibly can, so they can just keep the lights on and like still be profitable. So there's that as well. But I think for now I'm going to leave it right there. But if anybody sees this and they've got any comments or anything like that, and you'd like to talk about this subject a little bit more, but definitely leave a comment below and say what's up, and maybe we'll do another one of these videos. We'll see where it goes. But anybody that does watch this, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one maybe.